Hey, and we're back. Hopefully, you have sound now. Producer Ken is going to watch the chat just to make sure that you can hear us okay. We had some technical difficulties today, so we're sorry we're just a little bit late here, but we've got a great show. Very excited to bring you the braided borders. We're calling this the Brady Bunch. It's the kind of dueling off of two braided borders. It's a great way to make those panels absolutely pop. It's a great way to add some interest, to add a braided border to a panel. You could also add a braided border to any of your quilts if you've got something that needs just a little bit extra. Why not add a braided border to it? So we've got two different versions for you today. And I'm really excited to talk about the first one. We've got a great sample for you. Producer Ken is going to show you that one. This is the first version of the braided border. And I feel like I just was so discombobulated because we were running a little bit late today that I didn't introduce myself. You are looking at a loom panel with a braided border. I'm Allison, and behind the camera making all the magic happen is producer Ken, and we are live with Gotham Quilts today. So thank you so much for joining us. This is example number one of what we're talking about today. This is a great way to just add a little bit of interest to a panel. And the braided border is not that hard. It looks complicated, but it's not that hard, I promise. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's go to the overhead and we'll walk through what we're talking about with this braided border today. So on the overhead here, you'll see just a little snippet of this. And so this actually starts with 2.5-inch strips of fabric, and it takes advantage of this Half Hexie ruler, and I'll show you how to use that. But this is what makes it so easy to put these braids together. So I'm going to put this little sample aside and then we will go from there. So the first thing you're going to do is start with a 2.5-inch strip of fabric. Now, normally I would have my entire width of fabric if I was using a jelly roll, but right here I just have a little piece so you can see a little bit easier what is going on. Now, there are lots of Half Hexie rulers out there. This one is our favorite for one very important reason. Is, do you see this little frosted piece down here? This is actually a little bit of a lip, and I bet if I hold it like this, you might be able to see. You can see that there's an indent that goes all the way through this acrylic template. And what that does is it takes that little lip and it locks in place on the edge of your fabric. So as I'm pushing this, sure, if I push it hard, I could make it move. But as I'm pushing this, it stays in and it locks in place. So then all you have to do is, with your 2.5-inch strip of fabric, is go through your template, lock it in place, and cut off those extra pieces. I missed a little bit on this at the top here. And cut off those pieces. And so there I have my 2.5-inch tall Half Hexie. Now, let me get the right one here. There's another tool that really helps out. So you make a whole bunch of these, and you can see in this particular sample, we have a number of colors. Now, as you're making your braided border, here is a helpful hint, depending on how you want your colors to show up. Now, if you want your colors to repeat and show up the same place over and over again, so for example, blue would always be on this side. To me, that is the right side. When you're looking at it, it's going to be your left side. If I always want this blue to show up on the left side, then what I would do is just pick an even number of different colors of fabrics. If I wanted to alternate, and producer Ken, can you show us the loon quilt one more time? If I wanted it to alternate, like I did on this one, you can see on that very top row, the blue is on the top, and then it's on the bottom, and then it's on the top again. I did that by using an odd number of fabrics. So even you'll get it on the same side every single time, very consistent, very repetitive. If I wanted a little bit more wild, a little bit more crazy, I would just use an odd number of colors of fabrics. So we can go back to the overhead there. So then what I would do is cut all of my hexies, my half hexies, for the number of quilts, or the number of, I'm so sorry, the number of braids that I wanted to do. The next thing that I am going to show you is a helpful little hint here. And this is another tool. Sorry, I've got a little bit of a sticky bit here. This is another tool that is really very helpful when you're working through this. So here is my half hexie. The other thing that I want to do is cut off these little edges. Now, it's not strictly necessary, but it certainly is helpful. And there's a tool that's really helpful for that. This is the GE Designs point trimmer, but if you have like a dog ear trimmer, that does the same thing. This one has, I will put it back in the packaging here, but this one is going to give you 3 different rulers in one. And it's one of those things that you get for a project, and then you find that you reach for it all the time once you actually have it in your Notions bin, because it is so handy. There's a number of projects where having those dog ears, those little corners trimmed off, just make it so much easier to line up. And this is one of them, especially when you're making a braided border. You're going to use a number of these half hexies. And so anything you could do to make it easier is just that much better, right? So I'm going to take this 45-degree one here, and all I'm going to do is knock off that little corner. So I'm lining up my ruler here, my GE template here, with the bottom. Oh, you can see the top of my head there. The bottom at the bottom here, and then all the way into the corner where the acrylic meets the fabric. And then all I'm going to do is take my rotary cutter and knock off that little corner and cut that off. And what that's doing is that's chopping off this 1/4 inch that I didn't need for this corner. And I'll show you why that's super helpful in just a second. So then if you care to, you would go through and do the rest of that, knock off the rest of your corners. I'll go ahead and do this one here, lining that up with the acrylic to the edge of the fabric here, and the acrylic to the edge of the fabric there. And then this little corner, I know I don't need it, so I'm going to get rid of it. So once I've got my hexies all prepared, here comes the fun part. I'm going to start building that braid. Now, the first one is, I don't want to call it I don't want to necessarily call it tricky, but there is a little bit of lining up to do. So I'm going to start with my first hexie. And then what I'm going to do is, and I tell you what, it's been a hot second since I've done this. I'm going to line up my pieces here. So you can see this is the color that I want next to my green. So I'm going to line these up. I am going to take it so that basically the short end of the half hexie is covering up half of the long end of one of my other half hexies. I'm going to put these right sides together, and you can see right here at the top, this is why cutting off that little dog ear helps so much, in that all I have to do is line up my straight edges here. So I'll open this up one more time. Line up these 2 straight edges where I am going to sew, and then this corner that got cut off is going to line up exactly with the top of my half hexie. And that's how I know I've got it in the exact right place. So cutting off that dog ear for the win. All I'm going to do is take this to my sewing machine and sew along with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to start right at the top of where I cut that dog ear off and sew just till I get to the back of the end of this green hexie. And then I've got my pieces together just like this. Let's pretend that I sewed those for just a second. I'm just lining them up right now so you can see. Then what I do is I take my next hexie, and it's super easy from here on out. You can see that with my next hexie, half hexie, it lines up exactly the length of my green and my tan put together. So same thing as before, I'm going to line these up, and normally that would be a little bit farther in because I'd actually sewed them together. I'm going to line these up my new line that's half green and half tan is going to be lined up with the long end of my blue one. And you can see those dog ears. Cutting those off just tells me exactly where I need to stop. So my 1/4 inch, and now I have a piece that looks like this. So you can see it's the beginning of a braid. Move this down, and we're going to do one more. I wish I had another color, but I will go ahead and use we'll use the blue here. And then I will take this new long edge that I have and put my new half hexie here, sew it together just as I did before, and line it up. So you can see with that half hexie tool and the point trimmers, you can get a braid in no time. And then I'll hold it just like this so you can see how that goes together. So these two lines will stay parallel, and it'll look something like this guy when you're all done and when it's all sewn together. So then the trick with using a braided border like this is really just to measure about how far you need. Do your braided border until you get to that length, and then it's really easy to chop off the bottom and the top to get a nice clean spot for where you need your borders to be. So what we did in the sample that we were showing you before the loon quilt is we just did exactly that. We made a bunch of these borders, added some cornerstones for those corners. The other one, I think it went away. Oh no, yep, it went away. We lost it, but the loon flew away, I suppose. There we go. We found it. And so we did a braided border sufficient enough to cover the size of the panel, and then just chopped it off where we needed to. And you can certainly zhuzh this a little bit to get a nice even border, so you don't have teeny tiny pieces on one side. So that is one version. We can go back to the main one. Perfect. That is one version of the braided border. Are you guys ready for another one? Because this is the Braid-y bunch after all. Oh, actually, you know what? Before we go that, if you wanted to pick up either of these two rulers, we do have them in stock. I put my half hexie underneath the other one here. Like I say, the half hexie is fabulous. There are some instructions on the package on how to do something else with this. Really, it started off as a half hexie tool, so you could sew these together and get big hexies without having to English paper piece. Just with regular piecing, you can use a ruler like this to make that happen. But we really like it in this braided border application. Just another tool for a notion. Those are the kind of notions that I really like. And the GE point trimmers, I've got one here, I've got one there, and one there. Like I say, these are one of those things that you might get them for a very specific project like this, but they are so handy to chop off those dog ears. Lots of products. I'm sure you can think of lots of patterns that are so much easier with those dog ears chopped off. So we've got the GE point trimmers. I keep wanting to call it a point trimmers as well. And you get 3 different sizes to cover all sorts of different ones. Now you get 3 different sizes of rulers, but you get the 45-degree angle that we went through today. You also get a ruler with 60 degrees, and then you get one ruler that has both 30 and then the larger angle of 120. So you get lots of different options there. Okay, so we talked about one braid. Let me talk about another braid. This one is, calling it a braid, I think is kind of generous in that it's more of a woven, it's got kind of a ribbon feel. So producer Ken, we can go to the example there. This one is a much larger example than the one that I sewed up. You can see the one that I sewed up is down here, but really it's a great play on light and dark, and you can even see in this little image just how impactful and effective that is. All you need are 3 different colors. No special rules, no special tools here, just a ruler with a 45-degree angle and the desire to make lots and lots of half square triangles. But I'm going to show you a cool way to do that. Okay, so here we are with the, we'll call it a braided border just to make it fit in with the theme. But here we go. Let's see here. Yeah. So let's talk about half square triangles. Now this block is made, you can see here, I'll hold it this way so you can see. We've got really one block that's just made on repeat, made over and over and over again. And all it is half square triangles turned in different ways to get this kind of wrapped around effect. Let me talk a little bit about half square triangles. We love the 8 at a time method for this because you can see that it's very easy to get blocks out of multiples of 4. So 8 at a time is very handy. Now for this block, I'm going to we'll cover up these two. And you can see that in this block, there are 1, 2, 3, 4 triangles, half square triangles with the white and the teal. And then there are 2 half square triangles made exactly the same way with the dark fabric and the teal. So like I say, it's really easy to get or to use up multiples of 8 on this, which is why the 8 at a time works so well. Now, if you are not familiar with the 8 at a time method, let me help you out with this because it is a fun, fast way to get your triangles done in no time flat. So what you're going to do is you're going to start with a square of fabric. And there is a formula to figure out how much real estate you need for your square of fabric. And we'll put that up on the screen in just a little bit. But so you don't have to write it down necessarily. It'll show up on the screen in just a little bit. But all you need to know is your finished size of triangle. Actually, you know what I could do is put that up right now. Can we go to the front and then I'll get that up? Since I'm going to talk about it, you probably want to see it there. So let me do this. And we'll go this way. Perfect. Okay, so here's your formula. And I'm going to move myself out of the way here so you can see this. But you're going to take your finished size of half square triangle. You're going to multiply that by 2. So in this case, I wanted my finished half square triangle to be 2 inches. Multiply it by 2, I get 4. Add 2 inches. 4 plus 2 is 6. My starting square is going to be 6 inches. So that's a great, easy way. You just have to multiply by 2 and add 2, and that's how you can turn any half square triangle into the 8 at the time. That's the size of fabric that we want. Okay, Producer Ken, so we can go right back to the overhead here. I messed up his seams here. I think if we do the demo one, that should do it. I think.
I don't know.
We should let Producer Ken do his magic and have that happen. Yep. So you'll start with your square. In this case, I did my math, and I'm going to have a 6-inch square of fabric. Perfect. Then what I'm going to do is mark on the diagonal from one corner to the next, and then from the other corner to the next. So you can see with my friction pen, and this is okay to use a friction pen because none of this is going to be sticking around. So feel free to use whatever marking tool you like the best. I marked my lines. What I'm going to do is then sew a 1/4 inch to the left and the right of both of those lines. You can see here my lines that used to be solid, marking the X, are now dotted. Because in order to get this fun square of all the sewing, and you can tell these dark lines are where I sewed, I am going to cut along these dashed lines. Now, when you are making these, I highly, highly recommend cutting your up and down and your across, your side to side, before you cut any of the diagonals. When you have a smaller piece, it's really easy to get these over too far one side or over too far on the other side. And what that does is it makes it so that some of your half square triangles are smaller than others. Now, you don't have to worry too much. This is going to give you enough fabric because we're going to trim it down. But I would highly recommend cutting the up and down first and then the side to side. Once you get that piece done, it's really easy to then cut your diagonal pieces, and you will end up with 8 little guys like this. 8 half square triangles. Now you got your dog ears and you got some extras, so we're going to trim those down. You can trim them in one of a couple of different ways. One of the easiest way, just because you're generally going to have a ruler the right size, is to trim these with any kind of a ruler that has a 45-degree line on it. So you can see this dotted line right here is 45 degrees. And you'll want to make sure that your ruler is at least as large as your finished half square, or I'm sorry, as your unfinished half square triangle. So in this case, I wanted my finished size to be 2 inches. My unfinished size is 2.5 inches. I still have that seam allowance all around. I haven't sewed it into anything yet. So all I'm going to do is trim these down. To trim these down with a regular ruler with a 45-degree angle, I'm going to line up my ruler with that 45-degree line right across in the middle where my one fabric meets the other. So I'm going to line that up. I'm going to make sure that the fabric extends past the 2.5-inch line, because remember, I want this unfinished to be 2.5 inches. So my 2.5-inch line is right here, and you can see I've got some extra there. I will take my rotary cutter, cut side 1, cut side 2, and I didn't do a very good job. That was a weird angle, so I'm going to try that again. I will say that this always works better when you're not on camera. There we go. So I got my little bits. I'm going to take it and turn it 180 degrees. So my 2 cut sides are now going to be close to me and to the left. Now I'm left-handed, so yours might be a little bit different. But what I'm going to do is take those 2 cut lines and mark them up on the 2.5-inch line. And then I'll take my line, my 45-degree line, and make sure that that is right in the middle of my 2 fabrics. I'm going to scooch that just a bit. Take my rotary cutter, cut, and now I have a beautiful, trimmed, with not much waste, a half square triangle. Another tool that we really love in the shop are block lock rulers. Now these are, I would call them a little bit of a specialty tool, but especially if you do a lot of half square triangles, this is very helpful. I mentioned before that this Half Hexie ruler has a little lip that's carved out so that it locks into the fabric. This block lock ruler has the same thing. And so block lock rulers are designed, they're made to cut half square triangles. There's also some versions that have for flying geese and things like that, but I love the half square triangle one. There is a little bit of a carve out here, so you can see maybe that there's just a little carve out, and you can see that the carve out starts right on the corner on one side, and then it's a little bit down on the other. So here is right in the corner of the ruler, and then on the a little bit lower. What I'm going to do is, depending on how you press your half square triangle, in this one, I pressed the seam allowance to one side to the dark side. Now this works less well if you press your seams open. So just keep that in mind, that this really is designed to butt up against that little folded over bit. And so you can see I've got the part where the cutout is right at the corner. I've got that butted up against my seam allowance here, and it just literally locks in place. Do the same thing as before, and then I'm going to make sure that my half square triangle extends over the 2.5-inch line on both sides. I've got it locked in, trim, and trim. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move my fluff out of the way here. And I can either trim the whole thing, or what I could do is just slide the ruler to the other side. And I'm going to do the same thing, lock it up here, and then bring it so that my cut side is now at the 2.5-inch mark. This is a great use of a rotating cutting mat, because then what you could just do is rotate your cutting mat, or if you're comfortable cutting the other way, you could do that. Now, with this one, because it's on the other side, before I was giving it a little bit of counter pressure this way to keep that locked in, I'm going to do the opposite here. I'm going to give it just a little bit of counter pressure the other way to keep this channel locked in place against my seam allowance. So I'm going to take my ruler, take my rotary, cut and cut, and now I have another beautiful half square triangle. So with this braided border, you are going to make a bunch of those. Like I say, in multiples of 4 work really well. And then all you have to do when you get all your pieces cut and laid out is lay them out into the block orientation. So I guess I'll go this way. So here's, to you, this is the bottom. And then we've got the middle with our little darker piece with the, I guess, the pole that the ribbon is wrapping around. And there we go. So here is one block. Just do that as many times as you want. Now, this is really easy to get the exact height of the border that you want, the braided border that you want, because there's just 3 pieces. So in this case, my finished braided border is going to be, finished size is going to be 6 inches tall. I've got 3 blocks. They're 2 inches each, finished 2 inches each, and I have a border that's 6 inches. Now, it's really easy to get 6 inches, so that's kind of what I went with. I'm sure you can imagine if you were trying to fill in a border that was maybe 3 inches. This is going to be a lot trickier to do, so you do want to keep that in mind, and I don't think you get the same effect of the braid. But that is 2 different braided borders, one with a tool that you really do need. That Half Hexie ruler really is the best way to get a braid like this. And then just half square triangles, and really easy to make with that 8 at a time. So producer Ken is going to put that 8 at a time graphic up one more time, just in case you didn't wanted to see how it turned out maybe before you took note of it. So you're going to take your finished half square triangle side, finished size. So keep in mind, that's what you want it to end up looking like in your project when it's all done and all the seam allowances are sewn up. Take that finished half square triangle side, multiply it by 2, add 2 inches, and that's going to be your starting square. So that was a lot of braids. We're getting pretty braidy here. Producer Ken, are there any questions? Okay, nice. Well, I hope you all will consider adding a braided border to your next project. It is so much fun, and like I said, adds just a ton of interest. It's like not that hard to do, depending on which one you pick. You might need a relatively inexpensive tool or no tool at all, just the rulers that you've got in your sewing room. So with that, I think we will move on to our housekeeping things. So for housekeeping, I might need you to just put it up on the screen and then I'll talk about it. Perfect. Oh, we still have some spots available for our collage quilting virtual retreat. It is a blast. You join it from the privacy and the comfort of your own home. You do get a little retreat package that goes along with it, but we would love to have you join us. Go ahead and scan or click on that QR code to get some more information about that. Collage quilting, it is the new rage, and we've got our store manager, Colleen, who is extremely passionate about collage quilting. Stay tuned, because we will have all kinds of fun projects for that. So the collage quilting virtual retreat is going to be March 30th through the 22nd. You can join us for as much or as little as of the weekend as you want, and there will be full of instruction and fun and fellowship. And we're so excited to invite Karen Miller for our December thread talk. If you have been interested, or if you want to up your free motion quilting on your domestic machine game, you are not going to want to miss this thread talk. This is Karen Miller. She is an aura philosopher, just a master of all things thread. If you want to see some of the work that she did, check out our Gotham Facebook page because we just posted a video. Sorry, not a video. We just posted images of some of the amazing things that she did. So if you want to, with a little bit of practice, if you want to start your journey to quilting on your domestic machine, do check out that December Thread Talk. That is going to be Tuesday, December 3rd at 8 p.m. Central. And we've got a few seats remaining in our Color for Quilters class. This is a year-long journey all about color. If you want to up your color game, if you want to be less unsure, I guess, about colors, this is a great opportunity. It takes color theory and it just ups it a notch, and it tailors it to quilters so that you will have the confidence that you need in picking colors and prints, all those fun things for any of your future projects. It's a year long. It's fabulous. A lot of bang for your buck on that one, and you get a little I guess a class package with that too. We do have a textbook that guides us through. Textbook. It's much funner than a textbook. But we do have a book that guides us through, and your homework is sewing. So that's going to be pretty fantastic. And so you end up with a fabulous project at the end, or the beginnings of a fabulous project. We've got Stitch Lab. We talk about Stitch Lab all the time, but if you are looking for a community space of like-minded sewists, stitchers, knitters, crocheters, any kind of stitching, it's a fabulous place to share ideas and projects. And each month we have a theme. This month's theme is holiday. And so we meet the third Thursday. It's a Thursday. We meet on Thursdays once a month. Go ahead and click on that QR code and get some more information on the where and the when. Spoiler alert, the where is Zoom. So you can join that from your own home too. And anything else, Producer Ken? Okay, well, we've got all of our housekeeping things. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope that, first of all, you might be humming the Brady Bunch song to yourself after this particular demo. But if nothing else, you give one of these fabulous braided borders a try in your next project. So thank you so much for joining us. We will see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel, Tuesdays at 6:30. And I'm very excited about next week's. We're already working on the demos for that one. So can't wait to bring you that. Okay, I'll tell you. We're going to talk all about selvages, spilling the beans. So thanks so much for joining us. We will see you next Tuesday. And everybody, I hope you have a wonderful, fabulous, amazing Thanksgiving. We are so thankful for all of you. Gotham has quilting in general, but Gotham in specific has the best community out there. You have welcomed us with open arms and open hearts, and we are so thankful for you. Looking forward to the rest of 2025 and having a fabulous 2026 with you guys hand in hand. So thank you so much. We will see you next week, if not before, and I really hope before.